I run across a lot of colorful characters in the line of work I do. I hear artists that are trying to sound like Kanye West. I hear people trying to sound like Jay Z or The Game or et cetera, et cetera. People who have built some type of buzz or brand for themselves within the music industry. And a lot of people have been asking me, have I heard this white rapper named Slim Jesus? And, apparently he's this character out of Ohio, white rapper. I think he's 18 years old. And he's basically mimicking this whole drill music. And if you guys are not familiar with drill music, that's the type of rap, the popular rap that's coming out of Chicago right now. It's somewhat what of Chief Keef does, or if you guys are familiar with SD and Fredro and Lil Durk and all those cats out of Chicago. He's basically mimicking their style. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys some of his latest video that's been getting a lot of buzz. A lot of people been talking about it. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and show the video to you guys, and I'll come back with my commentary.
Gang in this bitch. Slim G's in a cut. Let's get it. Boom, 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 boom. I fuck with savages, you a fuck boy, you can't hang. You can find me posted up on Frank Block with my fucking gang. You ain't really bout shit, stay out my spot, don't speak my name, or I pull up on your block at night wearing all black and let that 40 bang. I fucked your girl and I ain't even try you, that little hoe, she a fucking thought. Got her off the molly, now she rollin', all she good for is giving top. I got loud pack, I got school buses, hurry up fam, come and shop. I got a big 40 with a 30 clip and I call that bitch my fucking mop. I paid $350 for a Fendi belt and that double F, hold up my strap. A lot of y'all just Twitter flex, but this shit ain't just a fucking rap. I hear one diss and I'm running up in your fucking trap. You thought shit was sweet till I ran up with no fucking mask. Always chasing a check. Bitch, I'm really bout mine. You a broke boy, but you rock designer. That shit don't sound right. Thought you could sneak this and you won't get found right till you get caught in traffic at the wrong place at the wrong time. Got a couple shooters and they ride with me and they down to shoot when it's drill time. Pull up and we get to drum and let 30 shots at that Glock 9. Now it's back to the trap with that 20 sack. Rolling up a switch of that straight gas. Got a 50 clip sticking out the max, so that's 50 shots at your goofy ass. Caught a Ferragamo when I was up at Saks with my true religion still off my ass. I got heavy pockets, I got big ass bands. Run up on me tryna rob in that 30 blast. Keep a bankroll on me at all times, rolled up with a rubber band. Off the lean, that promethazine got me walking around like a kickstand. Keep a bird tucked on my right side, my 380 or my FN. And if I catch you lacking, better pray to God that my shit jam.
Okay, so you guys you guys saw the video, and all I gotta say is it was very interesting. Now, the funny thing about the video is, if you guys paid attention in the beginning, it says that it has a disclaimer in there saying that all the props in the video are fake, basically. They're just props, meaning the guns, could be even the so-called blunts they were smoking, the money, everything. It's complete bullshit. That's basically what the disclaimer said. Now, this guy looks like, some white suburban kid that sat back and watched BET and, sits in this room all day and listen to Chief Keef and Lil Reese and all those guys. And basically he wants to mimic and portray a certain type of lifestyle that he probably has no understanding about. Now, I'm not going to say, Slim Jesus is a culture vulture, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm not gonna say he's a culture vulture. We have to be very careful with the terms that we use, because a lot of people are throwing out that word out here. But when you say he's being a culture vulture, what you're saying is that promoting violence, demonstrating violence, having heavy violence within your lyricism when you do hip hop is strictly towards black artists, and that's not the case. If you guys go back and you listen to just music in general, there's violence in country music, rock music. Even now and then you'll hear something in a pop record. So it's not just hip hop, although people like to throw violence strictly on hip hop predominantly because it's, black men who are involved with it on the artistic side. So, I didn't want to call him, a culture vulture, but he is a joke, in my eyes, and I see characters like this guy all the time, basically just portraying a lifestyle that he has no understanding about, never even experienced. But in today's time, with the internet and how easy these kids can get a hold to different musical programs, and you got Fruity Looms out there that you sit around your computer and create a beat. Everybody thinks they can be a rapper. Everybody thinks they're artists nowadays, and it's funny, it's hilarious that this guy looks like Slim Shady. I guess that's a play off of his name, Slim Jesus, and I heard he used to go by Swag Jesus, but if you're in the hip hop loop, nobody really says swag anymore. But this guy's a joke. I don't think he's gonna be around too long. And I deal with artists on a professional level, and I can pretty much tell who's gonna be around, who might have a buzz for a minute, and then you won't hear from him anymore. And this guy, in my professional opinion, he won't be around too long. He has a little buzz right now simply off of the fact that he's a white boy talking about or doing a certain type of hip hop form that is, basically, for the most part, done by black Chicago artists. But he ain't gonna be around too long. And, this is one of the reasons why I don't attack gangster hip hop, because see, this white boy here, he can come out here, he can talk about how he gonna, lay a op out, and talk about thoughts and, shooting people and talking about true religion and, all this bullshit that we hear out here from a lot of these rappers, and people look at him, they don't see him as a threat. They look at him like, this is a kid, and he's basically just doing music. But see, when our artists do this, like a NWA, like, Chief Keef, for those who do quote unquote gangster music, they're looked at as a threat. They're looked at as a danger to society. All of a sudden they're, putting bad seeds in our children's mindsets, and, they're just promoting violence. So the game always changes when there's black men involved in certain things that we would look at as, not being productive or not being positive. And that's why I don't attack these brothers when they do gangster hip hop. I do think a lot of them need to come from a different angle and not always talk about, shooting somebody down or selling drugs and, acting like that's a life of glamour, when in reality there's a lot of downfalls and pitfalls that come from living that lifestyle. And that's what I want to get, and I encourage a lot of my quote unquote gangster hip hop artists out here to do, to talk about, because it's the flip side of, all that shoot 'em up, bang bang, stuff these guys talk about in the records. There's a flip side of that. I grew up around that type of lifestyle. I know cats who were heavy into gang banging and the quote unquote gangster lifestyle. So there's a flip side to that, and a lot of these guys don't talk about that. But I don't go after them. I figure it's an art form. It's something that these guys grew up around, were once involved with, and they like I said before, everybody needs their time to voice their artistry and to voice their point of opinion about things. Excuse me. But when we got a white boy doing it, it takes on a different meaning. He's just an artist. He's just an innocent kid out there talking about certain things that he's heard in hip hop records, and he basically just wants to portray it in his own music. So it's a whole different game when white folks try to do what black artists do. It takes on a whole different game. A lot of people think it's more profitable. Prime example, Eminem. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from Eminem, excuse me. The guy can rap his ass off. But we cannot hide the fact that him being white does give him some type of privilege when it comes to crossover appeal and when it comes to marketing. We cannot hide from that. Now, you're not going to see people come out here and call Slim Jesus a thug or a menace to society or say he's poisoning our children. You're not going to hear that. or saying, oh, he needs to do political hip hop. He needs to be conscious. You're not going to hear people saying that because people don't take him serious. People don't put the same type of pressures on white artists as they do black artists. And I think we all need to think about that for a minute. We all need to watch some of the terms we use when it comes to black artists opposed to white artists. And that's really why I want to come out here and do this video, because when you sit back and you look at this guy, let's be honest, we don't view him the same way as we would view Chief Keef, you know, or what's the cat out here? Cat from Chicago, I think, what's his name, King Los or whatever, or Lil Bibby and all those guys. We don't look at those Chicago rap artists like we do this guy. When really, if we're gonna say, you know, it's violent, we need to be saying the same thing about this guy. He's a menace to society. But maybe I'm just saying too much. Maybe this is just too much truth for the human ear to pick up. But you guys give me your feedback on this Slim Jesus character. You know, I think he's a joke. You know, the video was funny. It just goes to show you how powerful and how influential hip hop has become. When you can have a kid from Ohio basically taking on the so-called characteristics of some, and I repeat, some Chicago rap artists. But you guys give me your feedback. I'm out.